It's time to talk about the league that everybody seems to have a love or hate relationship with. It's time to talk about we're at the midpoint of the NBA season. The All-Star game is done, and now we're on a road to the playoffs with play-in tournaments and a lot of player movement and all of that. So let's kick off this mid-season recap of the NBA season and look ahead to the future. So first we have returning guest, fresh faces, new ideas. What's up? Great to see you.
Hey, good to be back. Glad to be here. Yeah, I'm still doing my thing. So let's talk basketball.
All right. Now we also have some new kids on the block joining us for the first time. We first have Hayden Nadler first joining us on a panel. He was here last week. What's up,
Good to see
Hayden?
you.
Good to see you again.
Not much. Just good to see you. Glad to talk basketball and happy to be on.
All right. Great to see you, Hayden. And then we have Steven Bach for the first time joining us. What's up, Steven? Thank you for coming by.
What's up, man? Glad to be here. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So let's talk NBA. So much to talk about. As I said, it seems to have a love-hate relationship with people nowadays. And let's get into that why. The first thing to discuss. Now, me and Fresh Faces had this conversation last year, and ultimately what happened was extended. And that is the fact that Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving have left the Brooklyn Nets. Kevin Durant goes to Phoenix. Kyrie goes to Brooklyn. So I'm going to bring this question once again as it's set in stone now. Reckon with the Nets got all these draft picks for it. But the Kyrie KD James Harden era, was this the biggest failure in the history of all, not only NBA, but all of professional sports? I'll just simply say it clearly is. With the amount of talent they had, with all these players in their prime, and yet, I get it. You could talk about the injury issues. You could talk about this happened amongst the pandemic, whatever. But ultimately, when you have all that talent and it leads to only one series victory, and it even had a playoff sweep in there, this clearly was as bad as it gets. And though the Nets got a lot of draft capital, the Nets have a new coach. They seem to have a new culture. But before that, I think it's really embarrassing for Sean Marks, especially the GM, Joseph Tsai, the owner, and the Nets have a lot of cleaning up to do. And this resulted in the biggest failure in the history of sports. Do you guys agree with me?
I think that's a very, very tough question to say. Biggest failure in sports or the biggest failure in NBA history. I mean, I think you could look right now. You could look at the Los Angeles Lakers with when they had even right now when they just got Russell Westbrook, who had 3 straight years of a triple double, probably one of the greatest players of his generation. You have him, Westbrook, Anthony Davis, three all-time greats, probably three Hall of Famers, and you can't even make the playoffs. So, I mean, I think it's a little bit different when you look at that end. They just got rid of Frank Vogel. He only won one title in that bubble abbreviated season. So I don't even think it's the biggest failure of the last 3 years. If you're going to say it, the biggest failure of all time, I think that's a
I
tough
think it's
thing
the
to
most
say.
it's the most unfulfilled dynasty that ever happened. Like
Mm-hmm.
they played 16 games together. Uh and that's it. James Harden, like the first year doesn't count because KD was recovering from his injury. Then they got James Harden, and that was their most successful year. And then they came back the next year. James Harden was fat, and Kyrie was starting to unravel. And then that basically blew it open. And then they traded when K. I think if KD doesn't get hurt last year, and they don't because they were in like the first place, and then when he gets hurt, they fall to like eighth. Um, they James Harden probably tries to stay in shape a little more. This team is essentially where it is. Um, where it was pre KD and Kyrie. But like if you think about it, when that happened in 2018, 2019, every single team does what they do. Every single team trades for James Harden. Every single
Try to
team
get a superstar.
does whatever get. Because if you have the chance to get them, like barring literal massive injuries and the fact that Kevin Durant's shoe was slightly too large,
Mm-hmm.
you're winning multiple titles.
I
That
don't think
one
you're winning.
moment.
No, I don't think you're winning multiple titles at all. You have to have a team. The San Antonio Spurs, when they were winning all those titles, they didn't have any. They didn't have any star. I don't. I completely disagree with you on that. I
Oh,
don't.
wait. I'm a Spurs fan, and those Spurs
No,
teams.
no, no.
were
You
not-
got to think. You got to think about it like that. They never had like a guy like Kyrie or Kevin Durant in terms of talent level. They had Tim Duncan. They had Manu Ginobili. They had Kawhi. Even a couple of those guys were a little bit aging at the time, but they played great team basketball. They had a great head coach. I don't necessarily agree with the idea that a superstar is just going to necessarily win.
No, hold on.
I don't agree.
I'm
with
not saying every super. There's a lot going on. Kawhi doesn't get hurt. In that Warrior series, they win that title. Manu doesn't foul Dirk in 2006, I think it is. They probably win that title too. So there's extenuating circumstances why they don't win multiple. Ray Allen doesn't travel, they win that title. There's a lot of things. This Nets team, their offensive ceiling was higher than anything we have ever seen, and they actually could play defense. Like they were the cream of the crop at that point.
I think this year was the biggest disappointment because they were all healthy. I mean, Ben Simmons is whatever at this point, but Nick Claxton's finally a legit NBA center. And like all their pieces were getting healthy. Seth Curry was going to be good. Joe Harris remembered how to shoot again. I think the Clippers are just as big a disappointment. Like you can't say Kawhi and Paul George aren't almost comparable to KD
and then this is the point to like when you said that the Lakers were a biggest disappointment. When you look at when these teams got together, when LeBron joined AD, when Kawhi and Paul George got together, when Kyrie and Kevin Durant, only one of those teams has won a title. Like you can argue, oh, it's in the bubble, so it doesn't count, but they still won a title. Like, none of these
they still won a
teams
title. I agree with you on that. But like, I mean, I think they were looking when they added Russell Westbrook, they thought they were going to, be this juggernaut.
Yeah,
and
but then Anthony Davis is still hurt. LeBron has been hurt more often than he hasn't been, and Westbrook really didn't fit into that team. If
they
made
traded
the
away
trade,
their whole good bench too with Caruso and Kuzma gone.
I mean, I will say this about Kyrie: he is the most. Correct me. I would say he's the most disappointing and frustrating player probably in NBA history because he's the most talented point guard ever. I've never seen another point guard with as much talent as Kyrie Irving, just in terms of his handles and how he could play. He's probably the most talented point guard ever. And the fact you can't even depend on this guy to show up and play. I mean, the guy literally could claim aliens are coming from the sky and he wouldn't play. That's how literally insane this guy is. I mean, he's on another level of disappointment and frustration. I've never seen a player like that. The only other player I can think of who is as reviled in his respective sport was probably Christian Laettner. But Christian Laettner won you 2 titles at Duke, and everyone hated Laettner, but Laettner backed it up every year. They were winning titles. Kyrie Irving hasn't done. Kyrie Irving hasn't done crap.
Well, that's the thing. That's a good point. If Kyrie doesn't win those titles with LeBron, he didn't win that title. He's viewed the same way Vince Carter is. He's a guy that everyone is like. When Vince Carter was playing, he was the guy everyone thought Vince could do anything, but Vince never won. Kyrie is less successful than Vince Carter is, and the only reason his only good games was with LeBron. Like every other place he's been to, he's underachieved. Even before they got there, he underachieved. So if Kyrie winning that title is the only reason basically he's still in the league, like
the fact that and that should also add to LeBron's legacy as well, that he could literally win a title with this guy he's the equivalent of like Antonio Brown in the NFL without having the brain issues and the off legal issues. He's basically the NBA's equivalent of Antonio Brown. I'm gonna basically go there. He's so like out of his mind. I don't know if you guys would disagree with you on that, but that's the closest comparison I can make to Antonio Brown and Kyrie Irving.
I think he gets one more shot at this. I don't think he stays in Dallas. I mean, we didn't really talk about the trades, but like,
yeah, that was actually going to be your transition.
Yeah,
perfect.
I think he gets one more contract. He's going to get one more contract with like probably the Lakers, and then maybe the Heat will give him one shot, and that's or the Hornets will get desperate for him at some point. That's about it.
Do you think Kyrie can coexist with Luka at least for the rest of this half season to make somewhat of a deep playoff run? Can they make it to the Western Conference Finals with the team they have now?
No, but it also depends on whether or not he goes on Joe Rogan. I think if he goes on Joe Rogan, he's going to be out of the league.
I mean, honestly, I think in my opinion, who I think the best team out of the West, I'm still not counting out the Warriors. Until someone beats the Warriors, I'm not counting them out to make the finals again. Someone has to beat them. They show up come playoff time. You still have Steph Curry. You have Wiggins who can defend. Clay. Like they're gonna show up come the postseason. Like I would not discount it to make. I don't see any team in the West where I'm like, boy, they are. I mean, the Nuggets can't win a playoff series if their life depends on it. They choke every year. There's no team in the West where I'm like, boy, they really excite me. I would probably say the most complete roster now, just because the Clippers got Russell Westbrook, would be the team I'd probably look at and say, boy, I would say probably that's the best roster in the West right now. Even I would put them over the Suns, even with Durant, because I feel like they are a little bit more explosive and can defend a little better than the Suns. That's just my take on it. But yeah, I don't see the Mavs coming out of the West. I don't. I think maybe they'll win a series, but I don't think they're doing any more than that.
Yeah, I agree. I think second round is probably like their best bet. I mean, depends on the matchup, but I mean, where'd Luka take them last year? Single-handedly.
They went to the conference finals.
Conference finals, and now they add Kyrie. I mean, they got a chance to beat anybody, to be honest.
Yeah, but they can't guard anybody. Like they're conservatively the fourth best team. You have the Nuggets are better than the Clippers, they're better than the Suns are better.
I mean, but what if the Nuggets proven? What if the honest Nuggets
Yeah,
proven?
the Nuggets
we haven't. First off, the Nuggets haven't been a full team in 3 years. The last time the Nuggets were a healthy team, they were they were in the conference finals, and that was before Michael Porter Jr. could even like play basketball, and before Jokic decided I'm better than everybody else.
I don't know.
Like,
I mean,
that's fine, but Jokic isn't playing defense either.
I'm telling you guys, with a healthy Westbrook playing every game and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, when they get all healthy, I don't see any team that's going to be.
We haven't seen a point. Listen, Kyrie, I was a big Kawhi fan before he forced his way out of San Antonio. We haven't seen Kawhi play 2 straight weeks, much less 2 straight months.
When have we seen Kyrie Irving do the same thing? You could say the same thing about
Kyrie. That's the difference. Kyrie Irving's not the best player on his team and the most important piece. The Clippers aren't going to win a title without a fully healthy Kawhi, and we haven't seen a fully healthy Kawhi in 3 years. The last time he was fully healthy, he won a title. Like, he's not fully healthy. Until Kawhi
when has Durant been fully healthy? Durant has been fully healthy either. Like you're saying,
it doesn't
any of these players.
No, I understand that.
Kyrie's not a health risk.
Yeah, Kyrie's not a health risk, but that team can't guard anyone. Like, who is their best?
To be honest with you, can anyone guard anyone in this league? The Cavaliers right now are the best defensive team in the league. They're still averaging. Team's still averaging 106.8 points against them, so nobody can defend anyone. Okay, I don't want to hear about defense. You still need somebody
who can like. Who is their best wing defender?
It doesn't matter. They'll find some random crappy player like Tim Hardaway, and he'll be their best player on defense.
I mean, honestly, I think if you want to say defensively, I think the Suns have a big in DeAndre Ayton, who's one of the best centers in the league. So in terms of they have a big, at least who can defend the rim. If you want to say that, but like I said, I mean, people want to say defense wins championships. Defense ain't winning championships in this modern day NBA. That's from the 90s and the early 2000s when the Pistons were playing the Detroit Pistons and it was 83-68. That's a score at like the second quarter right now. So defense is winning titles right now. Nobody plays any defense. So, I mean, you want to have the team that can really score.
Because if you think about it, like some of the biggest plays in the last, 5 years, we have obviously the most famous play of LeBron's career is the block.
Yes.
And then you think about the Bucks title. The most famous play in that series is probably Giannis's block on Heat.
Okay, so you're talking about one defensive play for each game.
Yeah,
that's the only thing people remember.
But you need to have some semblance of like a base defense. Other than like, there's probably going to be a shootout at some point if the Mavs.
All those were fast break plays, weren't they? So what are you talking about for base defense?
You have to have some type of defensive player because look, the reason the Celtics lost last year
was not a defensive player. I mean, Giannis
it's because the Warriors messed up Tatum's rhythm and he played like garbage because he wasn't ready for the defensive pressure. There's nobody.
I think he just choked under pressure, to be honest.
Right, because there was
Tatum was good enough. I don't agree with you on that. Tatum was good enough players. Tatum right now should be in the MVP conversation. He's an incredibly good player.
Yeah, I don't want to
say I completely disagree with you on that. That Celtics team last year they didn't have a ton of time besides Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's a star in this league. He's going to be I would say he's going to be a top 5 player pretty soon.
Yeah, and had coming off an All-Star game to MVP too, and we could see if he ultimately making the finals last year. Obviously, is a big deal, but can Jason Tatum finally get that championship? We'll get into a little later, but also transitioning to the other trade that was made from the Nets. Talk to me about KD's impact to Phoenix right now, especially once he comes back and plays his first game.
I mean, yeah, KD is going to have a huge impact. I mean, obviously, he's one of the best wing players and probably shooters the game has seen. Probably He's one of the greatest scorers the game has ever seen. I would say probably bar none by minus Kobe Bryant. He's one of probably the best of the generation. So I mean, in terms of the talent, what he could do, if he could just, like Stephen A. Smith said, if he could just shut his mouth and play basketball, I think they got a real chance to win a title. But I mean, it's very hard with these midseason acquisitions. You don't have any time to really gel with the players. If you have to install a new system for him, so Monty Williams is gonna have to come up with a new system for Kevin Durant. But I think it's gonna be very, very tough. But I do feel like with Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Chris Paul, a facilitator, I feel like Kevin Durant's going to be. I think it's a perfect system for Durant to succeed. He's going to put up his numbers for sure, and they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. I expect them to at least make the conference finals, definitely.
Well, I don't agree with you on this system. Kevin Durant's one of those players who you can kind of just plug in. Like they can run the same stuff for Durant that they ran for Mikal Bridges, and it'll just be more effective than what they ran for Mikal Bridges. He can ISO for himself, and they can space Chris Paul and Devin Booker. They don't have to rebuild a lot to just fit Kevin Durant in. They just can throw it to him at the end of the shot clock.
But do you think that's going to be a problem with two possession players who constantly need the ball, like Devin Booker and Kevin Durant? Do you think that could be a problem in terms of who's going to get the ball?
No, I don't think so.
The ball?
I think Kevin Durant doesn't really care. I think with Chris Paul, it's not going to be like a huge issue. I think health is more of an issue than anything else for them. But
I agree because KD, unless he's playing with Westbrook, I don't think he really cares who the point guard is making the decisions. I mean, he did the same thing with the Warriors when he was open, which was all the time. He just took the shot, but otherwise he didn't care. It was Steph or Clay going off.
Yeah, it's like the team with the thing with this the Suns team, like they have to win now. Like their ceiling, like when we talk about how explosive this team is, it's not. They don't have a long ceiling. I think they have like a 2-year window basically. They have whatever this year and then maybe next, because Chris Paul has looked bad.
Yeah,
most of
he's
the
not
year.
the same.
Yeah, but I don't think Chris Paul's the big.
But I mean, you still got Devin Booker, though. So you got a guy under contract.
And here's the thing.
You got a couple of years with them.
I know he wanted to go to Phoenix, and it's going to be fun. I think if he wanted to extend his career and really just like play with just to like have the most fun, he should have gone to Denver. And I know Denver can't do the same. They couldn't match the same picks and stuff. But like, what is Kevin Durant if not the ultimate version of Michael Porter Jr.? Like the best player Michael Porter Jr. could be is Kevin Durant. Like if you put him on that team, they would have been so good, and he could have basically just coasted till he was 45, played next to Jokic. But they didn't have the picks. And look, the Nets are an interesting team now. I don't know which picks they have because they're all jumped up between whatever they gave to Philly, whatever they got back from Houston, whatever they have all these picks, but they're like, they're protected or they're swapped. It's all
spread over all over the place.
Mikal Bridges is really good.
Yeah.
And then they have all the wings. I don't expect everyone to be on this roster this time next year. I don't expect Dorian Finney-Smith. I don't know if both what's his face, Joe Harris and Seth Kerr will be on this team next year. Like they have pieces that can be built, but they're essentially where they were before they got Kyrie and KD.
Like the D'Lo era. Do you think Mikal Bridges is better suited as a solid number 2 though, instead of leading the team?
I think Mikal Bridges is number 2. I wouldn't say he's number 1.
And do we see Ben Simmons if he I don't know,
it's
snaps
Ben Simmons
out of it to become the
show
number
up
1?
And say he's literally stabbed his toe. Well, oh my God, I'm out for a year and a half. God.
he really should just go to Charlotte because it's like the perfect place for him to like figure out how to play basketball again, get his confidence back, and no one will care. Nobody cares about what happens.
I don't think anyone cares about Brooklyn anymore.
Well, I mean, it's whenever Cam Thomas goes off. I mean, they're going to be basically there's always that one team that's like a really good regular season team, and that's kind of feisty, and it's like, oh, Denver. Maybe they're the team nobody wants to see.
Denver every year. It's Denver. That's who Denver is.
Yeah, it was like that Denver team in between Melo and Jokic.
Yeah, they've had that. That's the team with Denver every year.
Do we think that Denver, they're number 1 in the West right now? Jokic is on his way to another MVP season. Can they at least get to the finals
Hold on. You said Jokic is on his another way to an MVP season. I agree with you. He could win it. But did you see Joel Embiid? Joel Embiid's averaging 33 points a game as a center. Like I think
Mhm.
Joel Embiid should 100% be in that conversation.
Jokic's worst game statistically is averaging a triple double.
I mean,
Right.
Joel Embiid, from what I saw, is probably the best center I've seen since Shaq. He's
Yeah,
incredible. Like when he
yeah.
actually plays healthy, he's unstoppable. I mean, he's a tank. And
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
think
we're
the only
underrating
way
Joel Embiid
Embiid's
a little bit.
I think Embiid will get it just because they're tired of giving to Joker. I mean,
We
who gets it 3 times in a row? Like, as an unexciting white guy to watch. Like, there's no way.
And we know like LeBron, they got tired of giving it to LeBron. So, maybe you're right on that one, Steven. And I always like to give this little portion of the NBA show, always just talking Knicks really quick. Knicks have
Oh,
been
thank God.
Knicks have been very streaky, to say the least. This is a team that will go on a 6-game winning streak and then lose 5 in a row. They'll go on a 7-game winning streak and then lose 8 in a row. Right now, since the addition of Josh Hart, they're so far undefeated with him at 2-0. But with this, though, do we think this team, with the rise of Jalen Brunson, with Julius Randle playing like an all-star again, even though in the all-star game he had a silly all-star game weekend, do we think this team is good enough to at least make it beyond the play-in, maybe even win a round, and maybe maybe they can finally attract that big number one we've been looking for?
Yeah, I actually think they are. Actually, this is the first year where I'm actually saying there's a little bit of continuity in the team with Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson's honestly shocked me. I'm excited about what Julius Randle's doing. You got a guy and RJ Barrett's still young, who's only 22. I feel like this is probably the best solid group of players they've had in probably 5 or 6 years. I do think they're well coached under Thibodeau. Are they going to land a star player? Is a very big question. Because it feels like every year the Knicks say they're going to get a Ferrari and wind up with a Honda Civic. That's what it feels like every year. And because I hear the same crap every year, and it's infuriating as a Knicks fan. It's absolutely infuriating. But I actually think this roster is well constructed in a lot of different areas. They got Josh Hart looks good as an addition. When Mitchell Robinson comes back, he's a good enforcer under the boards. Jericho Sims is a nice young player. So I actually feel like they're actually doing it right with Leon Rose and the roster. I feel like there's some confidence there. It's very infuriating, obviously, that they can't get a star player, but I feel like if they keep building this is something. I feel like this season they could win a playoff series. There's no one in the East, maybe, that besides Boston and Milwaukee, where I'm saying is unbeatable. I like Cleveland, actually. I think Cleveland's my sleeper team to go to the finals. I really like Cleveland. But, I mean, in a series with the 3-6, you're going to get, you're going to get Philly. They can make that a 6-game series, 6-7-game series. Yeah. I mean,
that's the only team that, like, that's the only upper team that I think that they could beat. They're not going to beat Boston. They're not going to beat Milwaukee. I don't know who they trade for at this point. Like who's the star guy that they're going to get? They were apparently in talks to get
Zach LaVine. Yes, that's what they want.
Yeah, I don't know how they could get LaVine for whatever they were offering.
Why couldn't they get Kevin Durant? Seriously, like why couldn't they? I don't understand why they couldn't make a deal for Kevin Durant. Like I don't.
Oh, because KD didn't want to play there.
That the Knicks don't have
the Dolan effect.
They have Devin Booker, and KD wanted to go to Phoenix.
So you're telling me you wouldn't want to play with New York, Julius Randle, all the young talent they have, plus in the New York market? I think it would have been a great fit for.
I don't think KD cares about the market.
Yeah, he just wants the ball.
I don't. I think he just kind of wants to play with his friends.
Tell us a perfect explanation there. Look what's happening.
Because he's so good, it doesn't even matter. Like just having him means you're like going to make the playoffs at the very least. And if you have like a semi-competent roster, you're going to go kind of deep with him. It doesn't like this. Towns is Town? Are they going to get Towns in 2 years? This Knicks team, how much better are they going to get? Like just this core. Like, is RJ Barrett going to have? Is he and Julius Randle going to bounce off of years where they both play like garbage, or they're not?
I mean, I have said this so many times. The guy they should go after is Bradley Beal. 100,000%. They should be going hard after Bradley Beal. I don't understand why they haven't got him yet. That's the guy who I would go after if I was the Knicks.
Because his contract's worth $1 jillion. And he's not like how much better does Bradley Beal? Like they should have gone harder. They should have gotten Donovan Mitchell. Like that, they should have just thrown whatever they could to get Donovan Mitchell, and this would have been a totally
I'm
different
upset
team.
now because Barrett's not having a good season. They should have
You're
given
telling
him
me you
up
wouldn't
for
give up
Donovan
Barrett
Mitchell.
and a couple other picks for Bradley Beal? I feel like that'd be a great addition with Julius.
Yeah, I
Randle.
would do that, but I don't know how much better Bradley Beal makes you.
Oh, I don't agree with you on that.
Oh.
Bradley Beal at one point was having 30 for the Wizards last year. He's a great player. I think he's one of the best underrated scorers in the league. He's not a guy that I don't think he's going to cost as much as Donovan Mitchell or some of those other guys. I feel like you could get him at a discounted price and still you would have a great roster.
Well, it's not gonna cost in picks, but it's gonna cost in the fact that he's this mass. I think he's a trade clause too.
He does.
He's gonna get paid like $50 million. So it's just a matter of matching salaries and how much depth that you're gonna lose for that.
And that's the one thing you wonder too. And apparently they were trying to shop him out, but it's just players though, they just don't want to make that long commitment for an aging player too. And well, you only hope that this will only get solved if the Knicks just keep winning, keep staying consistent. And again, even if you don't get these even if you don't get these star players, if you can't make moves this summer, just gonna have to do the old-fashioned way. Finally, hit it right in the draft. I mean, Quentin Grimes has some potential
but the problem
too.
Is we're not going to get a high enough pick where we can really hit pay dirt. We're not like what are they going to get? They're going to be like in the lottery. They're not going to.
Don't they have other picks from? I think they have a decent amount of picks from other teams. So
I think they got like 5 or 6 still left that they could deal off, or they at least could keep trying them and making these first.
Because the other thing is you can consolidate to move up because like the Pelicans have like a zillion picks and they're not going to keep.
Well, they could give RJ for like a pick if they wanted to move up like really high up in the draft. Like I feel like it's not like RJ.
It's not like they can't they have the ammunition.
Obi Toppin maybe you could get a later round pick for, but
I'm surprised he didn't get moved, Obi, especially with the rotation issues.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that didn't end up getting moved. This was also very weird for pre to the day before the trade deadline. There was a whole bunch of first round picks in the traded, and then the day of the trade deadline, I don't think there was any actual first rounders traded, just a whole bunch of second rounders.
Yeah, I recall that as well.
Which was just a stupid amount of second rounders. Like there were some of these trades were just nonsense. Like the Devontae Graham trade, I still don't understand. Like I guess it's a solid trade for the Pelicans, but like 4 second round, who's paying this? Like the Jay Crowder for 5 second rounders. I mean that's a good trade because second rounders are essentially when you're that good they don't matter. You're getting them in like the 50s.
And then he gets like hidden gems and stuff like that, and I ultimately see this, that's the one thing with the NBA and all the player movements and stuff.
I do like the Josh Hart trade. That was a good pickup because they got him for essentially.
I mean, he's fine, but like you said, he's really.
He's not a game changer.
Like you said.
Well, that's basically what the Blazers did. They traded everything for nothing. Apparently, the Mavs were going to get Thibault, and Thibault in Dallas would have been a good pickup. But
do you think they should have gotten OG Anunoby? That's another guy who they're looking at too.
Yeah, I'm surprised he wasn't moved. I don't know why, especially if the Durant trade was done. I don't see why teams didn't go after him harder. Like if there's one guy that I would think I'd want to stick on Durant on the short list, it's like Kawhi, and then it's like OG Anunoby. Like that's like it.
I don't know. I think the Raptors know they're stuck in that purgatory and they don't want to give them up for like nothing.
But they're gonna lose them all. Like Fred VanVleet is going to Orlando for $150 million. And then I don't know, I don't understand that they couldn't have traded things for the Raptors. Like, okay, you got Portal, and I like Portal, and he was good, and I think Golden State should have gone after him. But I don't understand him in Dallas or in Toronto. And look, I guess you're trying to build the bridge, but a lot of the guys that Dallas or that Portland traded for, they're going to be free agents, and they're going to have to pay out for these guys. Like they're not going to win with Dame. They're the 7th best team in the West.
No, they went to one conference finals with Dame. That's the furthest they've gotten.
And that was didn't everyone get hurt that year?
Yeah, that was the furthest they're probably going to get because I'm not gonna say they got lucky, but they got a long run.
He seems like he really wants to stay there, Dame.
Well, he wants to be a guy that plays his whole. He wants to be a guy that plays his whole career with one team. That's Dame.
Yeah, that's fine. He's just as long as he's aware he's not going to win anything, which seems kind of crazy for the type of player he is.
Yeah, right.
And look, part of it isn't his fault. Like those Warriors teams, nobody was beating those Warriors teams. Like it came in at like a weird time for the league where he needed a second guy, and they never got him. They never got him.
Well, they tried to get CJ McCollum, but he was never like he was never like getting a big three like they had with the Heat.
Yeah, they never had that like extra. They never had that wing. Like if they had Jaren Grant like 3 years ago, maybe they would have made some more noise. But
it seems that the Blazers.
The Warriors trade.
I was just gonna we'll get right into that, but I just want to say that the Blazers seem to be the next projected team to go on sale for the NBA. And I just wonder how that's gonna all unfold. I've heard rumors about and read about that the Blazers might soon be up for sale. I just wonder what a new owner would do in that situation with an aging Dame at this point, and if the franchise can get people excited again for them.
Well, if you get a new owner, they're not going to trade Dame. Like because they're gonna want to keep people in the seats and start to recoup some. What is probably going to be something like of a $3 billion deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw Matt Ishiboa going all in for as soon as he buys the Suns and the deal is official, he gets Kevin Durant. We're just going to see more and more, no matter what league it is, more aggressive billionaires buying teams as investments and see if they can bring some hope to those fans. Oh, yeah.
I don't know. They're probably going to lose. They're probably going to lose some picks from the Gary Payton thing.
Yes, probably, and that whole ordeal. But you wanted to talk about the trade. Which trade exactly?
This was the Golden State, Portland, Atlanta, and then there was a fourth team in it. I don't remember. Oh, Detroit. This trade originally, my understanding, was originally basically James Wiseman and like some picks for Saddiq Bey, which I thought was a really good trade for the Warriors. James Wiseman has like no value to their organization. The dude unfortunately can't really play basketball as far as we've been able to tell, which is part of this just weird lockout pandemic draft where nobody had any scouting and the kid hadn't played and it was hard to tell like how good he was. For Saddiq Bey, who basically could have been like a bigger Otto Porter Jr. for them. And when you especially after the Durant trade, you need another wing guy. You can't just have Wiggins and Draymond. You throw another wing at Durant with somebody like Bey, he's not the most skilled, but he's a big dude. He's a big wing who can shoot threes pretty well. He's a better player than people realize because Detroit's kind of garbage, so nobody paid any attention to them. So I thought that was a good trade. But then he ends up in Atlanta, which is an incredibly depressing franchise. And then they get Gary Payton back, who's apparently hiding a ab injury and is out for a month. And like, yeah, you won a title with Gary Payton and you basically traded James Wiseman to bring him back after you just didn't re-sign him anyway. But like Gary Payton's 6'2". Like he's not going to be the type of wing that you're going to need in these things. I just think it was a mistake.
Yeah, but I thought this whole trade was like a nothing. Like who cares? Like this doesn't change anything, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the point. Like they gave up Wiseman for essentially the player that they already had in their roster. That's why I think it was they took on they took on a longer contract for more years for a thing they didn't want to pay a guy anyway, just to trade a piece to get him back. That's why I think Saddiq Bey would have been the better option, because then if they didn't like him, they didn't have to sign him again, or they could do a sign and trade with him. To me, they got the wrong player. I mean, James Wiseman.
Even if they got Saddiq Bey, I don't think that's a huge game changer for anyone.
I think it's a bigger game changer for them than Gary Payton is.
And by the way, the trade is James Wiseman at the moment went to Detroit. Bey went to Atlanta, Kevin Knox went to Portland, and Gary Payton the second. Nobody knows if he's playing or not. Just to recap. But you were saying?
Fucking Kevin Knox, one of the multiple eighth overall picks that the Knicks blew.
That was a bet. Just another.
I cannot believe. I remember watching that draft thinking they're definitely taking Michael Porter. Like,
no, just another failed Kentucky guy.
Don't the Pistons now have Cade Cunningham and Wiseman? So maybe they're trying to build a young core out of that.
Well, Cade's out. I mean, look, I think that was a good pick, pickup for them.
Cade Cunningham was healthy. He's been a pretty good player.
Yeah, like you have Jalen Durnin, who's good, but he's still super young. James Wiseman's still super young. All the rest of your centers suck, so you can take time to build around them. You got to give a big athletic target for for Ivy while he learns and somebody who could theoretically play defense. Like, that's a good trade for a team like Detroit. That's what you do. You go after reclamation projects of high draft picks. That's what.
Well, I mean, Detroit right now is a they're a mess, to be honest. They're in a rebuild
that's on purpose. They're rebuilding. Like, I'm surprised
yeah.
they didn't move Bogdan. They'll probably move him in the
Yeah,
offseason.
I was surprised by that too, Bogdanovich.
I guess because nobody. You know what I think it is? I think that so many teams have spent their first round picks on like some of these guys. They like teams don't have the ammunition to keep firing off these 5 first rounders for somebody that they can't move these smaller things except for second round picks because the Bucks traded 5 first rounders and pick swaps for Drew Holiday. The Lakers did that for AD. The Wolves did that for Gobert. Like there's 3 first rounders for the DeJounte Murray. There's rules around this that you can't trade them so many picks. I think there's only like 4 teams with first rounders at this point.
And it also shows how immediate they want to win. It's a win now league.
Right. Like these teams are going to be, a lot of these teams are going to be dumpster fires for like these teams can like be farm systems for other teams. Like the Lakers pick, like the Pelicans may get a top 10 pick from the Lakers, or the Utah Jazz might get a top 10 pick from the Wolves. Like you can literally create your franchise from someone else's misery, which is what Boston did with Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So I think that's a thing where you're asking for first round picks. There's only a couple teams who are like, yeah, I'm going to throw multiple first round picks at you.
Interesting stuff. Now, fresh faces. When we do NBA shows, I always have to ask you about you and your Spurs. They have lost 14 in a row. How are you still holding up? How is Pop still there? He must really like basketball, I guess, even though he comes off miserable all the time.
I thought Pop was going to retire a couple years ago when after his wife died, and we've talked about this on the show. I think it really depends on this lottery. We're playing for the lottery. Everyone on this team is terrible. Like the best thing we get is Jeremy Sohan upped his free throw shooting by 30% by shooting with one hand. Malachi Brennan is kind of good. He's interesting. We don't have a point guard, so if we're not getting Victor, I'm getting Scoot is fine, but we're probably going to end up with one of the Thompson twins. And outside of those 4, I don't even know who else is worth it in this draft. It's just, it's a rebuild. It's not something Spurs fans have experienced in 2 decades.
You had 20 years of winning championships, and
we won 5 titles in 20 years.
You can have a little bit of.
This is like our first real rebuild year. Like last year, we were like kind of good, and then DeJounte Murray was going to be too expensive. And look, Keldon's not like the best player on the team. Devin Vassell's could be like the second best player on the team. He could be there's no reason he couldn't be at least as good as Desmond Bane. Like they're pieces there. They just, they just kind of suck on purpose, which is fine. It doesn't matter. It's fine to watch them take their lumps and, maybe Charles Bassey or who the fuck that kid is that we just signed for the 10-day contract is any good. It doesn't matter.
I guess he doesn't care about his winning percentage too, because these losses will catch up. But again, who
cares? The dude he won like Tim Duncan was like the winningest player of his era. He won. The only time he didn't win 50 games was the year they won that title when they only played 50 games in the season. He won 50 games in the 66-game lockout season. Tim Duncan won 50 games every year. Pop has like a 70% win percentage.
Speaking of teams and franchises that have been waiting a long time to be relevant, how do we feel about the Kings right now? They're 3rd in the West. Halliburton seems to really start some culture there as long as De'Aaron Fox. Mike Brown, LeBron's old coach, is really turning them around. Isn't this a nice feel-good story to see?
Oh, yeah, like the beam. Look, this is fun. Look, they're not very good. Like, they're not going to win. They may win one round if they catch a team that gets, like, if they catch, like, the Timberwolves in the first round or something, they may beat them.
I think they're just like Memphis Light. Like, Jaws,
they got
De'Aaron Fox.
They got De'Aaron Fox. They got Sabonis. They got some good players. I think De'Aaron Fox is good.
Yeah, they might win a first round. Keegan Murray's okay. Like they just need a wing. They don't have a wing. That would have been a fun team for Durant to be on. They definitely made a mistake trading Halliburton instead of Fox because
Yeah, they
Halliburton is still better.
You think Halliburton's better than Fox?
Yeah,
Oh, I just
that's what I
Yeah,
meant to say.
yeah.
After they traded Halliburton, I meant to say after they traded Halliburton, they still seem to rise up. But you were
I mean, they
saying
still have Buddy Hield. They have Buddy Hield right now, who actually has the I want to say he has the most threes at this time in a career. I want to say he was like one of the first players to make. They just said
Yeah,
that recently.
Buddy Hield's shooting is ridiculous.
Yeah, Buddy Hield's an incredible 3-point shooter.
And he just has never been on a good team. And
Like they
no,
got
I think Halliburton is
some
better
very good
than-
players, and they have Mike Brown, who's had experience in the league. I think they're well coached, but it's just, I mean, they got to make the playoffs this year. But I feel like they may be feeling the pressure of having the longest drought in sports right now. So we'll see how that goes.
I mean,
on.
they're
They're
the
gonna beat
3 seed right now. Like barring something catastrophic, they're probably going to make the playoffs. So I mean, the streak
Yeah,
is
they
probably
could get bounced
over.
into the play-in and lose, depending. They're all pretty close.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to make it though. Like
No, they'll make the playoffs. Yeah, it's just
they're going to be there. They'll be a feisty. Maybe they'll win a game.
They
But
could,
yeah,
they
look,
go in
they
the
have-
first round, depending.
I mean, it's a fun team. It's a good story.
But I mean, they're gonna. I mean, right now they could end up playing Dallas in the first round because 3-6 would be.
That would be
Dallas.
fun.
They're not going to beat Dallas. I don't think they're beating Dallas. I don't think they're beating Dallas. I don't think they're beating the Clippers, and I don't think they're beating the Suns. There's 3 teams.
Yeah,
where
they need
I
a
don't
5
think
seed so they can play.
I
somebody
don't
like
think they're
Liverpool.
they're beating any of those teams. I mean, and they're
Yeah,
all
I
right.
don't think they'll beat the Lakers.
I mean,
if they sneak in either. So
we'll
Well,
see.
they
I'm
could
looking at the
look. They
standings
could
right
beat
now.
the Pelicans. You don't know who's going to play for the Pelicans. There's no chance that Zion. There's a chance Zion doesn't play again this season.
Mhm.
I mean, it really depends. It really depends who gets the top 6 teams. I mean, if right now they're going to be playing Dallas or they're probably going to play Phoenix, I don't think they're better than any of those teams. I don't.
I think they could probably take Dallas like 6.
I
I don't think so.
don't think so. I think Dallas. I mean, that would be a 6 team.
I think
Dallas is a better team
they'd
right
be
now.
lucky if they took one game.
I know.
don't
They could take
if
Dallas.
I'm
to 6,
De'Aaron Fox, I'm
definitely.
whispering like JFK stuff
Definitely.
into Kyrie's ear the whole game. And see if he can have.
I mean,
he can have-
they're averaging the most points in the league. Sacramento right now. They're averaging 119.
Yeah, they can.
119.5.
Listen,
They're
they play-
score at the ball
if
consistently.
they play Dallas, somebody's going to score 180 points in a game. It's just going to have that because they're not going to play. It's going to be first to 120 who's
Like,
going to win.
what do
every
you
single-
think about like the NBA game versus the college game? Because like I'm saying, I'm seeing these teams put up like 140 to like 130, and like to me, I don't find that as entertaining. Like I watch college basketball, and every game is like 70 to like 66, and there's defense being played. Maybe it's not as good basketball, but personally, I find the college game a little bit more exciting to watch. Right now,
No,
than
the
I
college
do
game's
the
a little
NBA.
more unpredictable, and it depends. Like, it depends on the type of game it is. Like, if it's like nice ball movement, type of thing, like the beautiful game Spurs stuff. That's a lot of fun to watch. Like, even if they're scoring a lot, I don't mind that. Part of the reason college doesn't score as much is because they get kind of like similar shots to the NBA.
Well,
but
they're
like
shorter
half the
halves.
time
They're
they
shorter
miss.
halves too. You get 40 minutes for 48,
Right.
so that's why.
It's shorter games, and the players clearly aren't as good. Like, that's why there's most.
Yeah,
of
no,
them are
I agree. See, there's just so much more parity, and it feels like everyone's got a chance. I
Right,
mean,
because
some of
it's
these teams
also
there's
also 300 plus teams in
there's
college
363 in the so Division
Right.
One.
So unless you're getting like one of the first overall guys, most of the college teams are basically on the same playing field.
Yeah, it's just amazing that like the best team and like at Kentucky could lose to St. Peter's, like a 1 year St. Peter's went to the Elite Eight. I think it gives every school feeling like a chance.
Yeah, I mean it's the same in the NBA, but it's different. Like they're because it's a 1 and out tournament. You have one bad night, it's over. Like over a longer series of time, it's very rare that the shittier basketball team in the NBA wins.
Like, I
series.
mean, it's just like I remember like when it used to be like the Pistons versus the Pacers in like 2003, 2004. The games would be like 80 to 60, and like
Yeah,
the
that's because
game,
they were
like,
playing slugfest ball.
it was entertaining. I mean, I honestly find that kind of entertaining. Like, I feel like with the defense and the blocks, where every possession really matters. Like, it's now when the games are 140 to 130. I feel like the possessions don't really matter as much because every team scores a goddamn 3-pointer in every other shot. So
But it's not
that's
that the
frustrating for
possessions
me.
don't. It's not that it's not that possessions don't matter any much. It's they're playing the game with such like mathematical precision that each possession is basically maximized to score you points. So it's instead of it being, a battle of attrition from like physical attrition of getting your head caved in, because they're going to clothesline you when you cross the paint, or they're going to hand check the shit out of you. It's about, can I pay attention for the entirety of the shot clock in order to not have like Joe Harris open in the corner for a three?
I mean, because the rules right now, because it's a little ticky tack and all, you can't play as much defense. I mean, it's very. I would say the game right now, the quality of basketball, I think is better. Actually, it's probably better because I feel like it really encourages the shooting to be better. So I would say the quality of basketball definitely is better. I would say but like I just, for me personally, I think it's some of the calls are a little bit ticky tack from what I've seen in the NBA, but.
Yeah, but that's always the bit. That's a complaint from every fan for every generation and every sport. I mean, what was the big takeaway from the Super Bowl? Oh, that was a bad blown call at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. It's every sport that has a referee making some type of call will have people complaining about that call. Yeah, it's not a
especially it's not sports excuse me, especially with sports wagering right now in some states being legal, especially for sports wagering being legal in many states as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm down the right pipe. I have a question for you guys. LeBron passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the ultimate and number one scorer in the league.
Into this.
And whether you are ESPN, whether you're a local radio show, it's been debated now since LeBron specifically passed this record. Does he now have a better chance to say he's better than Michael Jordan in the Michael Jordan versus LeBron debate? I'll start with Steven on this one. Who's better, Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
So I'm always taking Michael Jordan. I mean, he's 6-0 in the playoffs. He's played way less time. Like he missed years. I mean, the 3-point shooting is so much different now. Like if he wanted to score like 100 points a game, he could have. Like the defense is totally different. I mean, LeBron made sure all his teams were stacked. I mean, he's fantastic. Like how long he's been able to play in his prime. But that's what happens when you pay $30 million a year just to stay healthy. And he never really had a major injury till like the last year or two, where he's missed a couple games. But I mean, no, you can't take it away from Mike.
He's the ultimate winner in that sense.
I mean, LeBron should have 2 more championships if like his whole team didn't get hurt against that first Warriors team, and then he choked in the Mavericks, and maybe after those 2, you could give it to him. But I don't know.
I completely disagree with you on that. I think LeBron 100% is the greatest player ever. I completely disagree. I mean, you're telling me this guy has been to 10 straight finals. He has the most points ever. He's actually has the most buzzer beaters in the playoffs. I want to say he has the most playoff points of all time as well. He's 9th all time in 3-point shooting. He's basically been the best player in the early 2000s, the 2010s, and parts of the 2020s. He's still averaging 30 right now when he's 40 years old almost. I mean, he's the best player. There is no better player. It's not even close in terms of who is the better talent, who's the better player on the court between LeBron and Jordan. LeBron James is the better, 100% the better basketball player. If you want to talk about winning, that's an entirely different conversation. But LeBron James also went to 10 straight finals, which Jordan only went to 6. It has to be taken into account that LeBron James has also went to 4 more finals than Michael Jordan, even though Michael Jordan never lost any. That has to be taken into account. You also have to take into account all the different teams he's played with. And in no different series at any of that point, the only series he lost, in my opinion, where he was the better team that they lost was to Dallas. That was the only time where I can honestly say LeBron wasn't outmatched when he lost the finals. So he's, 4-6 in the finals. Like, what can you say? That
2 of them he wasn't winning. 2 or 3 of them he certainly wasn't winning. He wasn't
winning
in 07.
The only one that he honestly should have won is Dallas. That's the only one where I can honestly say, boy, that probably should have won that one. But like, if you're telling me the guy went to 10 straight finals, he played more Hall of Famers than Jordan did. He played 29 Hall of Famers, I want to say, in the playoffs.
He's also played with way more Hall of Famers and All-Stars than Jordan ever did. Who Jordan never played with? Pippen?
LeBron played with You also got to look at the fact You also got to look at the fact that Jordan had Phil Jackson, who was the greatest coach of all time. Okay, like Eric Spoelstra is a great coach. I'm not disparaging Eric Spoelstra. Like Mike Brown's a good coach as well, and so is Frank Vogel. But he never had a Phil Jackson. Like, that's a big part of it. That's a very big part that people just don't want to seem to consider the fact that maybe LeBron James never had a Phil Jackson or one of the greatest coaches of all time. And also, look what happened when LeBron James left Cleveland. They won 16 games when he left Cleveland. When Michael Jordan left to play baseball for 2 years, where if LeBron James did that, he would have literally been thrown out of basketball in the media. Did you know what they would have said about LeBron James if he just said, "Hey, fuck this, I'm just leaving. I'm going to play baseball." Or he didn't even go to play baseball. He went to gamble. Okay, if social media was around during Michael Jordan, he would have been the most criticized player ever, and no player ever in the history of sports was as touted as LeBron James and lived up to the hype as LeBron James. I don't want to hear it anymore. LeBron James is the greatest. He's better than Jordan, in my opinion. If you want to say he's a better winner, that's a different conversation than saying he's a better player. LeBron James, 100,000% is a better player than Michael Jordan. I'll let you talk on this one. That's my take on it.
I mean, statistically, you're right. Like his statistics, and if you look at the teams, like Jordan, like if you look at the last couple teams that Jordan played against, like those two Jazz teams, they were terrible. They just were. They kind of fell into the finals by accident. The teams LeBron had 3 finals that just making to, like, he was never going to win. He was never going to win in 07.
He was never going to beat in 07. He was never beating a couple of those Warrior teams.
The Durant Warriors, he wasn't going to win.
Like I said, the only finals you could say that maybe he should have won was versus Dallas. That one I'll say he probably should have won.
It's a deeper conversation, and it requires more analysis. It's not to take away from like how ridiculously good Jordan was. Like when he was at his peak, like if they switched errors, could they do the same things? Could they do similar careers? I think LeBron more likely has a similar career to what he currently has in his era, in Jordan's era, than Jordan does in this era. Like if you just
you also got to look at it. LeBron's pinnacle came in. I mean, not LeBron's. Jordan's pinnacle came in the 90s. I mean, LeBron really had to do it over 3 different. You could probably argue 3 different time periods. The mid to 2000s, you had the 2010s, and parts of the 2020. Where was Jordan's career was probably segregated. Was probably congregated more to the 90s, and they both had similar challenges too. Like LeBron had to get over the Pistons, where they were pretty similar to the bad boy Pistons in the 90s. He had to get over it with Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace. Rasheed Wallace and Tayshaun Prince. That team was in 2 straight finals. They went
and then he had to beat that Boston team.
Yeah, then he had to beat that Boston team. So he had to get over the Pistons of the 2000s, who were they were a little bit of a similar team to the bad boy Pistons. Not quite the level of Rodman and Isaiah Thomas. I'm not comparing Chauncey Billups to Isaiah Thomas, obviously, but like that Pistons team was pretty damn good too. Like they could really defend. They had 2. Ben Wallace is a Hall of Famer. Chauncey Billups is probably going to get in. You could argue Tayshaun Prince had a number retired by the Pistons. So they know how to get players too. So they both had to get over the Pistons at some point in their career. And
Celtics too.
Yeah, Celtics. People don't remember that like Jordan lost, I think, 3 or 4 years to the Pistons. He lost. Like he couldn't get over the Pistons for a while at the beginning of his career. And then they had to fire Doug Collins. And they hired Phil Jackson. He finally got over the Pistons. Once LeBron finally got over those Pistons and Celtics teams, that's when he was able to dominate the East. But like there was no one even for 10 years, no one won the East. No one got past LeBron.
It takes a player a while to learn how to win at a high level. That's why the 07 team is such a weird outlier for his career, because it seemed like he arrived, but he hadn't. Like he kind of got to this early point. He got to it too early. Like if you put like the early Miami LeBron on those Cleveland teams, they're probably better. Because he's a better player at that point. And maybe he doesn't get swept by that Spurs team. Maybe he wins a game. But it's learning how to play. And Jordan got, Jordan still had players that LeBron didn't have to contend with. He had prime Shaq to deal with. Like he also never had to play Elijah Wan in the finals. Like that was one of the things they always said. Like we'd had to play the Elijah Wan, probably lost. Like Jordan was the favorite in all of those finals. LeBron has been in maybe half of them.
I mean, you could also argue the level of competition now is better. The players now are better than they were in the 90s. 100%.
Yeah, who was the best shooting guards with Jordan played against? Like Reggie Miller?
Reggie Miller, yeah, I was about to say Reggie Miller. I mean, the East didn't have so many like I feel like the East had better players right now. I mean, they have Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett with the Celtics, those Pacers years. I mean, I feel like, because LeBron is so,
it's not that those Pacer teams were good. Everyone else in the East was garbage.
Yeah. It's more that LeBron was so much better than the rest of the East. Like he never really got challenged. That's what the two thing I would say. Like Jordan and LeBron never really got challenged in their respective conferences because they were so much better than everyone else. I mean, and also you could say LeBron, Jordan went 6-0 in the finals, and that's great. I'm not going to take that away from Jordan, but I feel like that's kind of like a misleading number. I feel like it's a little bit misleading. LeBron went to 4 more finals. That has to be taken into consideration.
And even let's say you count those 4 finals, you can count those 3 of those as ones that he just wasn't going to win it, that nobody was going to win.
What area? What area would you say even Jordan is really better than LeBron? I mean, you want to say he's a better winner, fine, but that's a team statistic.
Oh, did he win more defensive players and scoring titles?
Yeah, I mean, you could arguably say that but I mean, LeBron James is the most points ever, so how could you say he's a better scorer? I don't understand what
you could be a better individual scorer for a season than over an extended period.
Yeah,
LeBron also played he came in earlier. And he does, Steven's right, he has the advantage of extra technology to keep him young. He also never had any injuries.
You could argue.
I think if Jordan had the same mindset, could argue he could have played for maybe 10 more years if he did the same thing.
You could argue that that Jordan was marketed better than LeBron too, because he had his own shoe brand. He was a little bit more he was marketed more than LeBron was. Imagine LeBron was marketed. Imagine they had the LeBron sneakers, which is they have KDs, they have Kobe's. LeBron's it's just not. It's not the same. And people want to say all this shit about he's such an icon. Okay, that's because people made him out to be an icon, not because he was a better player. The better player without a question is LeBron James, not even a question. And I'm sorry, it's not his fault that the Nike didn't come out with a selective fucking brand for LeBron James, or he didn't have the shot or whatever. LeBron has the block. LeBron has the butterbeater versus Orlando. There's plenty of magic moments, or when he did his fist pump versus Cleveland, that people want to jerk him off for all the time, that didn't even get them past that literally was in the first round of the playoffs. It wasn't even but I feel people want to talk about
25 29 points.
People want to talk about everything else but the basketball. I'm just talking about the basketball. LeBron's a better player. It's simple.
Excellent stuff, gentlemen. Now just going back to the current NBA. For who we haven't mentioned yet, when it comes to the East, who else do we see making a run in the East? Whether it's the Celtics again, whether it's the Bucks. I know Giannis, it was reported he was hurt, but doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. Or, out of any of these franchises, who do you think can make a run in the East and win it all? Oh, sorry. Before we talk about win it all, I'm saying win the conference. Who in the East can win the conference?
I think it's the Celtics to lose. I mean,
yeah, I think the Celtics are probably going to win it. I think the Bucks are a little bit more banged up this year. Chris Middleton's played 10 games or something. I think Giannis is a little hurt.
And Crowder hasn't even played yet for them.
I mean, my team, I think the Bucks are going to win it this year. I think the Bucks already have that title. I think they have Giannis. They got Brook Lopez is playing like an all-pro defender or all-elite defender. For Milwaukee. I like Chris Middleton as well when he's healthy. I feel like they're going to start.
If they're healthy, I think they can win.
I think they're the team to beat. I think they have a better they have a better team than Boston. I would say.
I think Boston has a higher floor than them. I think Milwaukee's ceiling's a little bit higher, but I think Boston as a whole is.
And you also got Drew Holiday too on the
I don't think they can match
the Celtics shooting though. If Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are on, I don't think the Bucks can keep up with that. And I mean, how many Euro sets can Giannis do?
I would say the Bucks are the team to look. I would pick the Bucks to come out of the East right now. That's who I would pick. But that being said, a sleeper team I think people need to look out for is the Cleveland Cavaliers with Mobley and Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen. They got a lot of players that I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs. I feel like they could take the Bucks to 6 or 7 if they play, because the right now the Cavs are the 4 seed. If they beat Brooklyn and they play Boston, I think they get into the conference finals. If they get past the first round and play Boston, I think they're going to beat Boston.
I don't think they're going to beat Boston. I think
I
they're
think
at least
Jared
a year
Allen
too
and
early.
I think Jared
they're
Allen's really
not gonna
underrated.
go well.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked how good Jared Allen's been. Jared Allen's averaging 14 and 10. He's really been, and they got
I
Donovan
think they're
Mitchell who can really
a
play.
year too early. They haven't figured out how to fully integrate Mobley with the rest of them, and he's still going to get just better. I think they're
I
still
don't
just
think
a
you
year
even
too
need
early.
him. I think Donovan Mitchell can carry him to at least
Yeah, I
the
think
second
Donovan Mitchell
round by
can too.
himself.
I like Mobley. They actually have the second best point differential in the NBA right now, which is crazy in terms of offense and defense. They all
Yeah, I think the bigger question is like Milwaukee has Giannis, and they'll probably have Drew Holiday and possibly Chris Middleton, but like they're gonna have to figure out how to replace Brook Lopez soon, and they're gonna have to like figure out how to start churning this system into the next generation. And I
Well, they
don't
got
think
Grayson Allen, so
Grayson Allen
that's that.
sucks.
Grayson Allen's good
Playing
coming off the
great.
bench. He's good coming off the bench.
Yeah.
He's a smart plug.
He's like their starting shooting guard.
Yeah, until Chris Middleton gets back.
He's figured out how to stay in this league.
No, Grayson Allen's
Yeah,
good.
that's only because he has. That's only. Let's be real. If Grayson Allen played like Ron Artest would have fucking killed him. Like,
Oh, he's a prick for Grayson Allen, but I mean, the guy can
Yeah.
play.
I
He can play a lot more than I thought he would. Honestly, I didn't think he would be this good in the NBA. He actually can play a little bit.
Dude, him when he won that title, it was the craziest thing. The motherfucker did the same thing 4 times in a row, and they couldn't stop him. He drove
Yeah. No, he's an asshole, Grayson Allen. Like he's like kind of like he's a typical Duke guy who they all want to hate. Like they hated JJ Redick. I mean, they hated Leitner. He was one of those guys from Duke.
No, but Grayson Allen is different. Like JJ and Leitner were really good. Grayson Allen is just a dirty player. That's the difference.
I mean, if he wasn't good, he'd be out of the NBA already.
No, he's a good player.
I just don't know how much longer the Bucks are always going to be good as long as they have Giannis. They're just going to have to figure out how to retool. I think they're healthy. They're probably the best team, but I'm still a little shaky on their health, and we don't know what we're going to get out of Crowder. And I think the Boston has better depth than they do, and I think that would make a difference. Because outside of is Jay Crowder your fifth? Is he the fifth player in your starting lineup in your closing lineup?
I still think Boston really needs a legit point guard.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Because
they can put Malcolm
Marcus
Brogdon.
Smart and Brogdon aren't really it.
Malcolm Brogdon's a great point guard.
He's fine. He's not even a point guard.
No, Malcolm Brogdon's very good. I agree with him on Brogdon.
That was a mistake for Milwaukee to let him go.
Might come back to haunt him. Now let's talk about the West. Who in the Western Conference can make a deep run? I want to start with Hayden because you said you really like the Warriors despite being 500 at the.
I do like the Warriors.
All-Star game.
I think until someone beats them, I think the Warriors are the team. You would say. I mean,
even if they had to play a play-in tournament with this,
I would say yeah, but I mean, if I'm not looking at the Warriors, I'm going to take the Clippers. That's who I think would come out of the West if I'm not taking the Warriors.
So you do feel they are upgraded with Russell
Westbrook?
Yes,
I do. I think they're upgraded with Westbrook. I think that's going to put them over the top.
He did do well off the bench, and I guess he'll be in the starting role for the Clippers now. So
yeah, I like the Clippers. Right now, I like the Clippers out of the West.
Yeah, I think as long as Kawhi and Paul George are both healthy, the Clippers should take it. But I don't know. The Suns are right up there with them as long as because I don't think that'll be a problem throwing KD in. I don't know. He played with Booker and the Olympics.
I think I'm really going for it, betting against Kevin Durant, which is kind of shocking. But I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the Clippers. I feel like they're a little bit more. I feel like their style of play is will be better for Russell Westbrook than the Lakers. I feel like
yeah, no, I think it's a good pickup.
I think it's a good fit for him with Westbrook. I think he's really going to help them.
I have more shooting than Boston than LA did. He's right. Like if the Warriors are healthy, I don't know how we haven't seen a team in the West beat a healthy Warriors team.
No, like that's the team you're gonna.
The past almost decade.
Yeah, until someone beats them, you can't really. It's hard to say someone else.
Yeah, but if we're gonna assume that it's not them,
well, I don't think the West has been this good since.
No, the West is actually a weak. The West is actually pretty weak this year. Like the team records.
No,
you
no,
look at the
it's
three-
not
It
that
was
it's
until
weak.
the trade
There's
deadline.
no super favorite team.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
It was kind of similar to last year. Like last year, the Phoenix Suns statistically were like unbelievable. They just had like
they won 64 games last year. The Phoenix Suns.
yeah, their statistics stuff were off the chart. Like they were unbelievably efficient. I think Phoenix. I think it's Golden State. It's Phoenix or Denver. I think you guys are sleeping on Denver. I don't think we've ever seen a healthy version of this team at this level. And if you're going to say that, oh, they haven't won anything, I would make the same argument for the Clippers. The Clippers
You
have
could say
won
that.
just as many.
I mean, the Clippers got to the conference finals one year, but yeah, you're
So
right.
did Denver. Denver
So
got
Denver.
to the conference
Yeah,
finals
but
after
the
they beat
Clippers
the
also have
Clippers.
Kawhi. He's actually won. Joker's never won
Yeah.
anything.
But we had until Kawhi at
I
any
mean,
point.
I do think you got to see like a healthy like Denver team if everyone comes together.
I have more faith in their health than I do in the health and mentality of the Clippers. Like similar to somebody
Fair.
beating the
That's
Warriors,
fair.
the Clippers they haven't proven like you can't win with Paul George as your best player. And this team is only going to go as far as Kawhi's whatever his injury of the week is with his legs is.
Right.
I mean, I think if the Suns right now are supposed to play the Clippers in the first round, I think the winner of that series is going to the finals.
Ooh, a first round.
The winner of that series.
Look, the best
I
first
like
round
that.
series would be the Suns and the Mavericks. That would be the most fun first round series. Like, wait,
I don't know. I think the Clippers Suns is a way better matchup.
Yeah, better basketball, but the most fun would be the Mavericks versus.
I don't
the
think
Suns.
so. I think it'd be more fun.
I don't know. I think it would be way more fun to watch them play kids, especially like Kyrie is apparently trying to get to Phoenix next year anyway. Like, you would have to be out of your fucking mind to sign Kyrie at this point if you're not.
I agree with you on that. If you're one of those teams, he's a cancer. Unless he proves in Dallas where he can turn it around, they win a championship. Like he's someone I think he's almost unavoidable at this point.
Even if they won a title, I don't think I would still sign Kyrie because he has shown he is basically like capable of playing for half a season, and the other half of the season is just going to torpedo your team. And until I would like to see at least a year of winning from him, and him not blowing up my team before I would sign to anything. I think Dallas fucked up. I think one of the underrated things that's not talked about is these picks that Brooklyn got. They got from two franchises, but that by the time the picks kind of come over are going to be potentially incredibly unstable. Like, there's no guarantee Luka's going to be in Dallas in 2020. There's no guarantee that.
I think they're going to try to.
I think Luka's one of those lifers. Like he's going to stay.
I agree with him. I think Luka's going to stay too.
I think first of all, look, there's two things. One, we don't know anything about like how he feels about the team because apparently the one time we heard that he's unhappy, they refuted it, and no one's ever like really asked Luka like, "Hey, you happy just doing whatever you want on the ball?" Because he seems to be. So yes, in that sense, it's possible. But maybe by the time 2029 is 6 years from now. Like at some point,
I mean, it's hard to say what's going to happen 6 years down the line. It's
right. That's why I feel like they have the potential, and I don't think like the Suns. They have the potential to be unstable in a while. Like KD is in the last couple of years been an injury risk. Chris Paul seems like at the end. DeAndre Ayton, like I don't know if you can rely on him to fill in a gap for whatever Chris Paul and Kevin Durant.
It's hard because there's not really too many like really great centers. I mean, besides Embiid, I mean, who else?
But it's not even just the skill set.
There's a scarcity at that position.
It's. I don't think he cares enough to be better. Like that's where it is.
So you feel he's content at where he's at? Like a James
My
Harden
man made $120
almost?
million. He's like the fourth option on a team. He like.
At least it's not as bad as James Harden, who really doesn't care and is collecting a paycheck.
It's because he's making that much money. Because, like I said, the scarcity of position. He's one of the best centers because there's not too many great centers. So, like, he's the best.
Right. He's not more. Like after Jokic and Embiid, and then if you want to count Giannis as some type of center hybrid, like the next best center.
It's not that he's so fantastic. It's just there's not too many, like you said. I mean, it's kind of like, I'll compare it to a situation. It's kind of like Daniel Jones right now. Like Daniel Jones isn't a great quarterback, but like in the NFC, he's like the second or third best quarterback because the NFC is crap. They have no quarterbacks. So
He
he's
wants to
going to
get
get his
paid
money.
like one.
So he's going to get his money because they don't have any other options in the NFC.
What if they signed Derek Carr?
We'll see. But like in the NFC, like I'm looking at the NFC, like I'm just talking about like football. I'm not that to go off topic, but like he's probably like the second or third best quarterback in the NFC because like Brock Purdy with the 49ers, they have no one that's healthy. Like the Seahawks with Geno is so much better than Geno. Like I'm thinking about all the playoff teams. Like the only quarterback that I would say is really great in the NFC is Jalen Hurts. The rest is like Kirk Cousins isn't much better. Dak Prescott isn't much better. Like they're all around the same.
Something worth
It's the same thing.
think about.
It's the same thing with DeAndre Ayton. Like there's just not too many great centers. So it's like in the league, like you got Jokic, you got Embiid, like Ayton. Like there's not too many great ones. Unless I'm missing someone who, if I'm missing a couple of names, just please let me know. But there's not too many great centers in the league right now.
No one else unless you
Jared Allen's pretty decent. Jared Allen's pretty decent, but like,
and what Nick Claxton is
Nick Claxton's not bad, but like, there's just like I said, there's a scarcity at the position because of the way the game's played.
Exactly. This isn't the 90s anymore, right?
Yeah, everyone can shoot now, so it's like there's not really a.
Also
really
Steven
need to
Adams
have
is
a
one
center.
to think about too for the Grizzlies. He could be an
Yeah, he's just a player though. It's not like
right.
Especially at this point.
Fair point on that one. So let's put our thoughts together, gentlemen, and let's declare here on February 20th. We're recording this. Be released the February 23rd. Who do we see coming out of the? Ultimately, make your pick for the East. Make your pick for the West. Pick your finals and pick who's gonna win it all. I'll start it off. I believe Kevin Durant is going to figure it out with this core with Ayton, Paul, Booker, and who am I missing? Or did I get everyone? But anyways, with the Suns' new core being well coached, having postseason experience, and as long as they're healthy, the Suns are going to make it to the West. And for the East, I think the Celtics are going to return there. They change coaches, and it seems like they don't miss a beat. Team chemistry's there. Jason Tatum is really leading this team on and making impacts. I think you'll see a Suns and Celtics finals with the Celtics finally going over and winning their first title since 2008.
Is Udoka done? Because they just made the other guy the full-time head coach.
I think he's a free agent in the coaching sphere. And he didn't go to Brooklyn, so
right, but they would have had to like trade for him or something. Like,
yeah.
I don't know what exactly his status remains because he's not like he was on suspended or something. Like,
yeah, I think he's still technically suspended, and that's what happens when you cheat and get extra horny, I guess. But Ime Udoka, at the moment, I don't think he's part of the team. Okay. Who do you guys say? Who's your finals?
I'll let him go first.
I'm gonna agree with Matt. I think it's Celtics Suns, but I don't think the Suns are gonna lose. I think KD stacks up better than Kevin Durant and Jaylen Brown, especially with Devin Booker dropping 50 points whenever he needs them to. So I'm gonna take the Suns beating the Celtics in the finals.
Take that.
I guess I'll go. I'll take the Bucks and the Clippers. I think the Bucks are going to come out of the East this year. I just feel like with Giannis, Chris Middleton, I think they're going to figure it out. I like the way they're coached. I feel like they have the star player. They have probably the best player in the league right now, arguably. They have a championship under their belt already. They're coached by Mike Budenholzer, who's probably one of the best coaches in the league. I like the fact they also have Brook Lopez, who's a pretty great defender. So I feel like he's the type of guy who I really want to see down the stretch. So I'm going to take the Bucks out of the East, and then a little bit of a tough pick. I'm going to struggle with this pick, but I'm going to stick to my guns, and I'm going to say the Clippers are going to come out of the West with healthy Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Russ Westbrook. I think they're going to figure it out. I feel like they might have the best chemistry over the Suns and the Mavericks, although a little skeptical about that, but I'm gonna ride with it. I'm gonna go with the Bucks and the Clippers for my finals prediction.
That would look pretty genius, adding what Russell Westbrook, and if they can make a deep run to the playoffs with that, that'd be interesting.
For sure, for sure.
All right, I agree. I think it's going to be the Bucks in the East. I think they're going to be healthy, and I think Giannis is a little pissed off that people are kind of like counting them out. It's going to be the Denver Nuggets in the West. Jokic is the best player in the league. They're healthy. I trust them to stay healthier than any other team. The other teams have health question marks. I think this is their year. I don't know who would win. I think Nuggets Bucks is going to be the matchup.
And I'm taking the Bucks to win the finals. I would take the Bucks over the Clippers.
I think if they make it, I think the Bucks would probably win. So I think that just the experience they have is more important than what Denver has, even though I think Denver's team might be a little better.
All right, then. Looks like we all want to see a new champion. The second half of the season is about to begin, and let's have a lot of fun with it. Thank you to Hayden Nadler, Fresh Faces, New Ideas, and Steven Bach. We're talking all things NBA. Let's see you down the road, guys. Thank you again.
Thank you again. All right, bye-bye.